Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Aspects of Design. I am delighted today to be speaking with Francesca Rowan Plowden of Rowan Plowden Interior Design. And Francesca, she is the founder and director of her company, and they do mostly residential and commercial interior design, but they also do historical stately homes. And in April 2018, they completed the restoration and redecoration of Battle Hall, which is on the Leeds Castle estate in Kent. And if this wasn't enough to keep Francesca busy, she's also the founder of the charity Design Havens for Heroes. So welcome, Francesca. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you for having me. It's very sweet of you to have me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about. But the first one, I think, I was so curious about is that you, in your previous life, you were an actor. So tell me about that and how, why, and when you came into interior design.
So I went straight from school. I was at a school in London called Godolphin and Latimer, and it was, I kind of had a bit of a battle because I did my A-levels, but I just didn't really want to do any of the subjects that you do for A-level at university. And I just had this massive yearning to go into the theatre. And so
Tread the boards.
I think it was basically because it was the only subject I really actually enjoyed at school. And in those days, you couldn't really do it as an A-level or GCSE. So it's great nowadays that kids can do that.
Yeah.
So it was always an after-school club or a lunchtime club or anything like that. And I really it was kind of, I'd always really make sure that I was never late for that lesson.
Well, it's about doing, you do the right thing. It's about doing what you enjoy and what you're good at.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was any good at it, but I got into Lambda, and that was when I was 18, and I did a foundation course, and then I ended up doing the 3-year training there. So I think I was just 22 when I left, and then I went into being an actress, which was an eye opener because you when you leave drama school, you immediately assume that you're going to just be in some amazing period drama or
a bit of telly, or
exactly.
I know.
And so I really did a lot of everything. I did quite a lot of commercials. I did a lot of fringe. I served a lot of burgers. I worked in a lot of shops. I had a Saturday job at Harvey Nichols where I used to sell chocolate. And then I worked at a Greasy Spoon. And I just lived a proper jobbing actor's life, which, and then I went on tour a lot, which I really loved. And I think it actually was a sort of prelim to working in big groups of people on site. It's really nice working as a team because I really enjoyed being in a cast much more than when you're doing things that you just are on your own or whatever. So I was an actress for a while under a completely different name.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the boys went, what are you in? I'm like,
so we can't find you, can we, on YouTube?
No, you can't find
dodgy commercial.
It was, I was big in Belgium, but there were a few. Yeah, it's a different name. And then I met an actor and I married an actor, and he's actually Rowan, so that's why I've got two because I have 2 children who are Rowan and 2 children which are Plowden, which is why I'm Rowan Plowden. Everyone thinks I've got this very unusual family background, and in fact it's just my 2 marriages, the kids together, so it's a made-up name. So I married an actor and I moved down to Rye, and we had 2 little babies by that point, and I became the tenant of Lamb House, which is a National Trust property.
It's amazing when I think you posted something on Instagram about Lamb House, and I think it was last year I went down to Rye for the first time. Most beautiful, magical. It's Dickensian, and then I remember seeing Lamb House, and it's the author, it's Charles Lamb, isn't it?
It was Charles Lamb was the Lamb family, and then it was Henry James and E.F. Benson were the authors, and Rumer Godden also as well, who had all lived there. But most famously, most of the visitors come because of Henry James and E.F. Benson. Because Map and Cheer is all set in Rye.
Yes.
And it's actually a very good depiction of the sort of curtain twitching.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful, and there's a plaque, and it's, so when you said that, I could sort of visualize it. So Rye is just so you were the sort of custodians of this house.
So we were the custodians, and we were the first family to live there since the Lambs who built it in the 1700s. So we caused a bit of a stir in the town. So there weren't many children. This is 12 years ago now. There weren't many children in the Citadel. And it was two young. I was only 28. It was two young actors, and we turned up with these
The
kids.
scandal! God, the curtains must be going nuts.
Yeah, and literally the characters were going crazy, and then everyone took it upon themselves to say to me, you're not polishing the brass properly. And we'd actually had a plastic door knocker in London, so I'd never polished a brass door knocker before. And you're not polishing the brass properly.
Because they all felt that they had ownership of this beautiful property.
Mm-hmm. With the property came, a booklet the National Trust gave me of 40 volunteers' names, and they said you're going to have to give them cream teas, you're going to have to do drinks parties for them, you've got to keep them sweet because they obviously volunteered to open the house. And one of them, who sadly passed away last year, was a great character. She turned around to me and said, "Darling, I've seen tenants come and go, but I've been here the whole 40 years." And I was like, okay, you're my friend. So, but how did you end up being the custodians of this place? How did that sort of come about? I saw just a little advert in the Sunday Times property supplement, and I just thought we were renting a little cottage in Teddington, a 2 up, 2 down, and the tenancy at Lamb House was the same as we were paying in our rent in Teddington. And my eldest then was about 2, and I was starting to look at nurseries, and I was just thinking, I don't know if I want to be here, and I was really sort of longing to move out of London. And then I was like, well, look, this is the same price as this cottage. Why don't we apply? And it said that the tenants had to have a literary connection.
Okay.
Which we weren't writers, but I think the fact we were actors.
Yeah.
That it and so it was then a really long, lengthy interview process. And
I can imagine.
And I was just sort of acting my way through it, really. I was just like, oh, yeah, whatever.
I'm in character, the custodian of the house. Did you turn up in a bonnet and a crinoline?
I wore quite a lot of tweed.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
I read Matthew Lucia, and I thought I'd dress like Queen Tyrene, so I wore sort of tweed culottes from the little.
I thought, oh my God, full marks for effort. Let her in. She can stay. Brilliant. So listen, tell me, how did that how did you end up doing interior design?
Long story short, because I was living there, and my husband at the time was acting. He was away a lot. I couldn't act because I was looking after children, and so I just started putting plays on in the garden, and it started getting press interest. And then they were like, oh, can we photograph the parts of the house which are private? Because the National Trust parts couldn't be in magazines, but the bits that we lived in could, and I was decorating them. So I think it was first in the Telegraph Saturday Supplement, and then it was in the Lady, and then it was the local magazine, the Wealdon Times, and then Sussex Life. And then people sort of started seeing my interiors, and then I started getting asked to do up people's houses, and I was a bit like, well, I'm not an interior designer, but okay, I'll do it. So
and you obviously enjoyed it, so
I loved it.
People were asking, and you kind of thought, well, all right, yeah.
And so that was kind of how it took off, and then I ended up just doing people's houses, and then it wasn't until Goodnestone Park where I was, a friend suggested me to Lord and Lady Fitzwater, along with another friend who I did Goodnestone Park with, Marcus, for us to pitch for it. And I was a bit like, well, I do have people's houses, but I don't know if I can do a stately home thing. And we pitched for it together. And that was kind of when I sort of thought, actually, I am interior designer now.
Yeah, I'm good enough. Yeah.
I've been doing it.
I'm validated.
Yeah. So
brilliant.
So that's kind of how it all came about. So yeah, that was
wow.
It. But I think because I worked alongside the National Trust quite a lot in the renovate, we had to have works done to Lamb House all the time, and I chose the colours, and I did a lot of research into Georgian architecture and paint colours and fabrics because I wanted it to be sympathetic. But I think that stood me in good stead.
You kind of learned on the job almost.
Totally.
Yeah. But what an amazing sort of foundation to have. You're working on a genuine property, and you have to be true to it. So can you sort of describe then, how would you describe your interior design style?
I think it's quite eclectic, my personal interior design style, but obviously when working with someone like Battle Hall at Leeds Castle, there's a very specific brief, and with Leeds Castle, there's you didn't have one client, you had 13. There's a board of 13 trustees, so they all had slightly different views on how it should be, but fundamentally it was for a commercial basis, for it to be rented out in a wedding venue. But also you're very it's heritage, and it's you're very confined in its listings and the features, and you can't go too crazy because obviously some of the trustees wouldn't like that, where others want to see it more commercial. So that was probably more tailored to what was needed for the job, and I tried to get as much as my eclectic kind of thing into it.
Yeah.
With Elmley, I was allowed a lot more freedom, and also I love finding bargains and things like that, and mixing old with new and rustic elements. So I'd say my style is probably English eclectic, veering on the sort of organized chaos kind of side of it.
Well, it's working, you know. You've got that ability to sort of pull it together. It doesn't look like organized chaos. It looks, it's you're obviously able to curate it and put things together and know when to stop, when to sort of stop before you get into sort of chintz overload.
I think that's the thing. I think it's with chintz and stuff like that. They're really very intrinsic to English traditional style and English houses. And you, in a way, they're very important. But you don't want it always to be like a homage. It's nice to sort of blend it and tone it down. So I use, if I'm going for really strong chintzes in some bedrooms or wallpapers and things like that, then I often tone it down with lot of plain, more contemporary linens, which just makes people, I think, feel a bit more relaxed, and they're not in a kind of stuffy old house that somebody else lived in or died in or something. It sort of makes it a bit more accessible rather than kind of tiptoeing around. You kind of want it to be enjoyed and respectful to the design without it being intimidating.
And so where do you get your inspiration from?
Stories. I think that's the acting side. Stories of the houses and people. With Goodnestone, there was 5 brothers, and there's 12 bedrooms now. It was 15, and then there was.
So tell me a bit about Goodnestone. What is that for sort of people who don't know what that is?
Goodnestone is a very lovely Georgian stately home. It's just outside Canterbury, and it's privately owned. And its history is Jane Austen. So. Jane Austen's brother married into the Fitzwater family, who still own the house. And it's one of the few houses that are still owned by the family in the country. But obviously these houses cost a lot to run, and there's death duties and all that sort of thing. And so when we were employed, it was to turn it into more of a commercial venture. So you can hire it out for your wedding or private house parties or events or corporates. And the brief was to keep it as a family home, because they might live in it at some point, and they do sometimes stay in it themselves, but for it to have a sort of 5-star hotel level of luxury. And they really didn't want it to feel like a hotel though, so it had to feel lovely experience.
So it's almost like you're kind of, you can buy into a little taste or a little feel of of what it's like to live in a stately home. You can kind of just pretend that you're a sort of lord of the manor or whatever for the weekend,
without it being too Downton Abbey and too kind of sort of austere. I mean, the kitchen there's very much a family kitchen, and it could probably be in any very large house. But what was interesting of that is their family really wanted the story of them to be told, and the client, he's one of 5 brothers, and so there's George's room, there's William's room, so we took and Henry's, we took their interests and somehow kind of incorporated. So one room's quite botanical because he writes books on gardening, the other one's very into horse racing, and it's quite masculine, that's the dark blue room. The other one, he's a potter, and he specializes in sort of Japanese style pottery, so there's a sort of oriental Japanese sort of accents in it. So in that sense there was so much to draw upon. With Battle Hall, there wasn't a specific client. As I said, you had all the trustees. So my inspiration for that was Lady Bailey, who was the person who last privately owned Leeds Castle. And so she's long gone, but I sort of made her my client.
Brilliant. So you sort of had her as your client.
I had a dead
that's
client.
Fantastic. Because then you're sort of you're sort of having client meetings with her.
She'd undertaken a massive renovation of the actual castle in the 20s and 30s, and was very much part of the social scene, and had Churchill and all these amazing movie stars hanging out there. And she loved birds and chinoiserie, and she had exotic animals wandering around the castle grounds. So she was, a real eccentric. So perfect. And she even put a swimming pool in the 30s with a wave machine, which I didn't even know they had in those days. But
wow!
So with Battle Hall, I used her as my inspiration, and hence the de Gournay wallpaper, because that was a homage to something she'd used in the castle, and lots of chinoiserie. And then there's sort of in the bathrooms there was a lot of Art Deco accents in the sanitary ware and stuff. So I kind of just look for the stories in the houses, and then that's my inspiration.
Oh, fantastic. So, and what I'm going to do, so, for, everyone who's watching, I will put your Instagram handle, at the end of this. So,
Oh,
all of there's lots and lots of photos there of your projects and, so people can go and have a look and
oh,
write
yeah,
lovely descriptions about them. So
I love
you get
writing quotes.
yeah, I know, and you do. You have your quotes and stories, and so you saying that stories are your inspiration makes complete sense. So there are a couple of the projects that you've done. So tell me, is it all stately homes and castles that you do,
No,
or
not at all. So
what else? Do you...
Elmley Nature Reserve, which I finished last year, it's a nice big farmhouse, but it's big, but it wasn't particularly grand, and that was really nice. And like I said, that was quite a lot of contemporary, and we put a big glass with Dunn Architects. We did a big glass extension on the back, and it was much more. Again, it's for the commercial market, but it was much more kind of contemporary and modern, and far less stately, more kind of just regular farmhouse. So I do projects, but then I do people's flats. I've done quite a lot of flats in London. I do stuff for property developers where I literally just pick colours from afar and don't even see the developments.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to envisage these rooms.
I know. Yeah.
That's the bit I'm a bit like, oh, I can do it, and I do it.
Well, it's that because you get so involved and so personal in your project. So to do something from afar, you feel a bit of a fraud, or you just feel like this. Yeah, but if that's what they want.
But that's with developers, that is what they want, and it's kind of slightly run of the mill. They just if they've got a block of 6 flats, they just want to know what colours are going to work, and I sort of find out which way it's facing, and what the videos of the room. So that's that's not kind of that creative, but I'm happily do it. And then I love doing things in London because it's so different to where I live now, and it's like my past life. So I did some lovely bedrooms in a house in North London, at the beginning before lockdown, and that was really nice because it was all kind of a bit more glam,
a bit more, city,
a
city
bit
flickers,
country, a bit more Shazam.
Oh, brilliant. So tell me, have you been working during lockdown? Have you got any sort of what's going on currently?
Well, it's funny saying the thing about virtually. I've done a few virtual. So there's a lovely account on Instagram called Our Charming Little Abode, and she's got the most beautiful Georgian manor house, and I've just been doing consultation with her, but I've never actually been to I was meant to go to the house literally as lockdown happened. So she sent me videos of the rooms, and I've chosen fabrics, and I'm hopefully in September I'm going. But so I've been doing that, but that's a whole kind of, like you say, it's a sort of new way of thinking, because you're and that's that's someone's home, it's not a developer, but that's been interesting. And I've been doing quite a lot of other colour consultation, and then I've got a couple of beach house projects coming starting soon down here. So they're local down to where you are. And where has that come from? Has it come from them seeing your work on Instagram, or have they seen your beach house, or has people been going, who's done that house, and then her I think it's come from Instagram a bit. Our beach house, from when I was married, it gets rented out a lot. So it had, so I think some people have stayed at it and gone, oh, I like what, my beach house interiors are not just for beach houses. It's very different from the stately home stuff in a way. It's much more pared back and less sort of print heavy. But I really enjoy it because I like using a lot of reclaimed materials, and in a funny way it's more imaginative because I try to think of clever, inexpensive ways of doing things which people could use in their homes.
Oh, it's fantastic because you've done a whole story. And again, anyone watching this, I would encourage you to go to Francesca's account, because there's a whole story on what you did in the beach house. I love that whole story about the the utility room, and you got your dad involved, and the curtain was I think it was a piece of denim, and and all of these, and it's just it's very achievable. So it's not all about having the biggest budget. It's about sort of being creative.
Well, I think it's funny is you never know what people want to see on Instagram, and what people want in their lives. And it's been really, the stately home stuff is very kind of aspirational, and it looks very beautiful, and it's very pretty, and kind of all looks a bit like a movie set to something. But the beach house stuff, I think, really resonates with people because achievable, and I don't have the budget that my these stately homes or Leeds Castle have. So my home is not like that. My home is more like the beach house, because I'm trying to do things on a budget, and I've got 4 kids, so I kind of go, do I really need to spend that on that fabric, and do I, and so
pair of shoes for child number 3, or
cushions.
those cushions. Yeah, moral dilemma. Cushion.
Yeah. Exactly.
Those shoes will do you for another year. Get in.
Yes. Wear some flip flops. So yeah, it's probably more imaginative. And my dad trained as an engineer, so I'm like, do you think you could knock up some doors? The in the utility room, if you haven't seen the picture, you have to go back and see it. But there's I think you're talking about the tractor flaps, which I went to this. There's a guy in Leeds, and I said he's called Drew, and he lives in Leeds. I can't tell you more than that, but I went and saw Drew, and he said, I've got some very nice timber. And I was like, brilliant. So I went to see him, and I saw these, and they've got incredible hinges and bolts on them. And I was like, what are they? He said, they're the bits that flap down on the back of a tractor trailer. And I was thinking, right, what on earth can I do?
What can I really like them. So where can I put them? And
then we were just moving the boiler and doing boiler cupboards. And I went, brilliant. There we go. But I'd had them in lying at the back of the garden for about 4 months until I kind of figured out what I was going to do.
Yeah, well, I've built something to put them into.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But I think that sort of stuff as well, as I know, because the Leeds Castle stuff, the stately home stuff, it's very aspirational. It's just fantasy, for lots of people to look at that. You can get inspiration from it though, and take that,
totally.
you can take that. But I think the beach house as well, it's also aspirational in another kind of way. It's just, to have a beach house, and, and some people love that. So they might live by the coast, so therefore they can then incorporate, because it's a very, relaxed vibe. It's a very, very chill vibe, isn't it? So
it is, and it's actually, with 4 boys, as much as I'd like my house sometimes to be covered in really lovely, expensive wallpaper, I just wouldn't do it because it would be trashed. I mean, and you have to be practical. Whereas the beach house stuff, like I said, I don't really have carpet at home because, they're just going to ruin it. Whereas if I paint the stairs, I can just touch it up.
Yeah. And the thing is, and it's kid proof. So, but listen, out of all of these projects, so what's been your favorite project so far that you've worked on?
I think they're all so. I mean, Goodnesston, because it sort of really kicked off the business, and that was I had a baby during that, and it was a long job. It was 2.5 years. I wasn't pregnant then. I was pregnant throughout the whole job, and then by the time I finished it, I had a 1-year-old. So it was very much a sort of sentimental job, and I became very good friends with the clients. So in that sense, and then I suppose Elmley creatively was my favorite because it was more of me and mixing the two, kind of mixing the beach house with the stately, I suppose.
Yeah, so you were given a kind of a freer brief, do you think?
Yeah.
So you could, it was a kind of elusive brief. So listen, the next thing I wanted to ask you, because, it's just, so amazing, Design Havens for Heroes. So I came across you when I saw it, and I think, lots of designers, at the beginning of lockdown, initially we were like, we can't work. And then, this awful virus, protect the NHS, save the NHS. And we were just seeing these people in the NHS just going out there. And, when you think back to when the mortality rate was so high and these people were putting themselves on the line, and it was terrifying. And I think we all sort of wanted, I know I did, I thought, what can I do? What can I do? Can I offer them free consultations? Can I do something? And then, I came across you and you were looking for designers to get involved. And I thought, absolutely, brilliant. That's what I can do. I can do my bit. So, but you just came up with this idea, and I think it's just sort of, it's mushroomed way beyond what you ever could have imagined. So tell us about that.
I mean, the idea I had, and it was exactly what you're saying. It was not working, feeling, I've had friends who've been making masks and scrubs. I had my friends in London were taking food into the hospitals, baking cakes, doing food deliveries. I've got friends who are in medicine themselves, and and I was thinking, what on earth can I possibly contribute to do? And I'm not working. I'm looking after homeschooling 4 kids, but at that point I was just like, I'm a doer. I'm not very good at just sitting doing stuff that I need to do more. And I thought, well, it was literally like a light bulb moment. I can do room makeovers, and this is what I do. I make people's houses and rooms look nicer. I suppose I've said it a lot before, but we really appreciated our homes during that time of lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as sort of claustrophobic as it might be, being in a house with 4 kids all the time and everything, it was, I said, this is our castle. We're staying here to stop the nasty bug getting us. We're staying safe. And then there was a nurse on the telly that evening who was basically in floods of tears, just saying, please, to stay home. You don't know how lucky you are. And I thought, golly, they've not, there I am going, moving the cushions around and thinking, well, should we paint the front door pink? And, all this sort of stuff. And they it's completely frivolous in comparison to them risking their lives, but actually very important for them to have those spaces of calm. And I think one thing that's come out of the charity, which I suppose I knew, and I think a lot of other people knew, but it's kind of been highlighted, is how important your home is for mental health.
Yeah.
And all the NHS workers who I've spoken to over the past few months have said, they just, when they come home, that's it, they shut down. And especially if they hadn't been able to see family, like the paramedic Gigi who I spoke to, she wasn't allowed to see her mum, so she lives on her own. That was her absolute letting go of having been a paramedic, dealing with COVID, telling people they were having to say goodbye to their loved ones before they got into the ambulance. I mean, things that we couldn't even possibly
absolutely
envisage experiencing. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I can make some rooms, help people do. And the concept of room makeover has been on telly for years and stuff. It's not a new concept. So I thought I'll just do that. And there's a hospital locally, and I contacted Henley and Keel, who are lovely carpenters and furniture makers nearby. And I said, would you help me do some room makeovers down here? And one of their sisters is a nurse. They said, oh, we'd love to do that. And I contacted some of my smaller fabric suppliers. So I just thought, I'll do
a couple of makeovers and that'll be it. Yeah. Little did you know.
I know. And then I thought, I have Canva on my phone. I'm totally rubbish at sort of graphic things. I have Canva, an app on my phone. So I thought I'll just do a little logo, just so if I'm approaching people, it looks legit. And it's just not me trying to get stuff off people. And I'll set up a separate Instagram account. So I just did that. I messaged a few designers saying, do you want to do this with me? I'm in East Sussex, maybe you could do one there, maybe, I don't know, but I've got these people who can donate some stuff, so we could send it to you.
Yeah.
And then day 3, there were 300 designers messaging, and the whole Instagram had crashed, and it had mushrooms, as you say, blooms. And I think it's it's a nice idea, but I think where it's come from is, like you say, is there was kind of a gap in the world of interior design of how we could support charities per se, not just during COVID. I think it's something the interior design world hasn't really done, is done a lot of charity, seemingly, because a lot of companies have said to me, oh, we've never, we'd really like to support. I mean, obviously high street brands do it quite often, but, a lot of the more independent brands. And then I think it was people feeling exactly the same way as we did, as how can I possibly help? And actually, I've got this skill set, I've got these resources. So
and I mean, it just works on so many levels, because I think a lot of people, because in interior design it's mainly, you've got the big heavy hitters, but it's mainly very small companies, one-man bands, and you can't really, you're so busy just trying to sort of keep your business going and get business and be viable, that you don't really have time, unless you've got a big staff, to be doing charity work. And there are some great things going on that the bigger sort of design houses do, but this was something that was just really doable. You could use your skill set, so it wasn't taking you out of your comfort zone. It was because we're in interior design because we want to make people happy in their homes. We want to make these sanctuaries, and for everyone, our home became our haven. It was that place where it still is, where you're safe, where you don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to keep washing your hands. If you're all your things are around you. If you're lucky, you've got family with you. and we've come out of lockdown now, but we're still so conscious of it. But for these people, you're actually able to say thank you in a really positive way. But what I loved about Design Havens for Heroes, because I of course said, yeah, I want to do this, how do I do it? And one of your lovely team got back to me and said, well, we need you to fill these out, and this is so, and I thought, wow, this is so organized. And what I loved about it, it was so structured and manageable, because you could have gone off and done it yourself, and it sort of maybe would have got out of control, where you've said you'll do a makeover for somebody, and then you're sort of spending a huge amount of time, of your own time, and not getting paid for it. So this was very structured. It's the same for everybody. You give X amount of time, you can use product, and it's, so you're within these parameters, which, I think is so doable for everybody. And I'm just so thrilled that you've had the response that you've had.
Well, that's really lovely feedback, because, I think as soon as I realized that it was a much bigger thing than I anticipated, and Karen, who helps, Karen Harper-Cuss, who helps on the designer side, we were like, okay, she got in touch with me quite early on and said, I want to help, and I was like, thank you, because this is getting quite big, and
unmanageable.
I'm going to have to reply to all these people, but also, it's about supporting the NHS. And it has to have structure, because it's a sensitive situation, and you don't want to kind of you don't want to patronize, you don't want to run away with it, you don't want the designers to feel like they're giving loads of time without and people taking advantage of that, and so it needed a structure.
And or for some people to be saying, well, they got more than me, and I only got this, and I didn't get this. So it's just, it's equal. It's equal.
Yeah, everybody's equal. It's there's the same budget cap, there's the same time cap. And one of the things that's made me realize is there's so many different types of designers, there's so many different styles, and there is no right or wrong at all. We all get preconditioned to, whatever's in fashion or magazines say or whatever. And actually it's about just creating something for an NHS worker that they really like and they really want in their home, and the kind of egos and the tastes and everything else slightly go to one side. Yes, you can guide them and say, well, I think that might look nice as that, whatever, but it's about giving back, and I think to do that you have to have a structure, because otherwise it will just run away. Everybody will run away,
or it becomes or the whole positivity comes out, kind of, you lose that kind of whole positive thing, whereas this structure just means that this is what we're doing, and it doesn't matter whether you're a consultant or a nurse or a ward sister.
Who've just graduated, people have just graduated from design school. As long as they've got the experience and they can do it, then it doesn't really matter.
That's what I want to ask you. So tell us. So I mean, do you have to be an interior designer? From our side of helping to get involved. How can people get involved? How can you nominate somebody? How can somebody be nominated for a makeover? So can you tell us a little bit?
Okay. So we have a lot of interior stylists as well as designers, and we have a lot of people who work in interiors but aren't necessarily got a design practice. That is all completely fine. It's just you have to have insurance, and you can get like a short. If you don't have insurance, you can get a one-off package or a certain amount of time, whatever. Or we can, or you could be paired up with a designer who has got insurance. So there's that aspect of it. So if you want to join in from the design point, and I have to say, most of our team are designers, but they're running the brands, they're running the designers, they're running photographers, they're running trades. There's a lot of admin. So even if you don't want to do a room because you don't want to give that time, but you happily help get some brands or trades on board or anything, then please volunteer, because everybody's volunteering, and obviously people have jobs and kids and all sorts of things, so people dip in and out, so we're always looking for people to help on the admin
be
side.
Ambassadors almost. Be
ambassadors and just sort of help spread the word or help get brands on board. I mean, to go back to the structure side, the reason why we've taken we've only actually been running 3 months, but it seems like quite a long time.
I know, it's incredible. It feels like it's sort of been around much longer, just because it's kind of really established itself and it's caught people's imagination.
But the reason why is because we've, I have a lawyer on board who's very sweetly volunteered her time, so that everybody, has signed a disclaimer, so it's all fair,
proper,
level, proper, legit, and then we can just keep doing it once that's all in place, so they can go on and on and on. But I didn't want to get, oh, let's just do all these rooms, and then suddenly go, oh, this is chaos and a nightmare.
And this is awful, and it hasn't worked out.
What have we done? So
I know.
Designers can get in touch by emailing designers@designhavensforheroes.org.uk. If you want to nominate an NHS worker, then you can. We did do tagging on Instagram, which you can still do, but a lot of NHS workers aren't on Instagram, or their friends may not know. So probably the best thing to do now is to email nominations@designhavensforheroes.org, and you just say, I'd like to nominate so and so, and have their permission if you want to give their contact details, or we contact the person who's nominating, and then we say, could we, do we have permission to contact that nurse or whatever. And then if you're trades, you email fabrics and then if you're brands are still coming on board. I think there was a whole sort of flurry, and there was, a lot of the big ones came on board, but now but then I think, the more smaller independent ones didn't really know what was happening during lockdown. And now they kind of go, okay, we're okay, we can do this. So they're still, kind of coming on board. So but to be honest, we've got nearly 650 people brands-wise signed up.
Fantastic.
So it's amazing.
It is amazing.
And more beds, a bit short on beds. We've got some great bed companies, but if anybody knows any bed brands, doesn't have, you can donate one bed, it's fine.
So any bed suppliers out there,
exactly.
come on board, absolutely.
And so the rooms are coming in, with the nominations, and actually I'd say the majority are probably living rooms, sitting rooms, sort of open plan kind of family room things, and we've had quite a few bedrooms, kind of rooms that you would imagine to be havens. We've got some really lovely children's wallpaper and linen brands, and a couple of designers who specialise who've worked with other charities, kids charities, doing children's rooms. So it'd be really nice to do some children's rooms, which we've had a couple of those come through as well. And then we had a few. So you could do
that. So for an NHS worker, they could nominate, a bedroom for their child. So kind of a haven for their child. So
because it's the time for them to have that time together that we've all had. I mean, I posted on the Instagram the other day, a little girl called Lexi, who's 14, sent in a poem nominating her mum. I mean, literally, like, the whole team was in blessed tears reading it, because, she was just saying, I want to nominate my mum, but actually, it'll be for all of them, because she's not had that time. Unlike the boys who are probably sick of me, she's not had that time with her mum. So it's about creating havens for the families as well as the individuals, and we've also had quite a lot of nominations for staff rooms in hospitals and
because
rooms.
That's sort of, you can imagine that's almost the natural progression of it. And I know that you said in one of your posts that that's something that you wanted to do, to sort of to really continue this and do
absolutely.
like that.
I mean, I think that was, it's obviously the lockdown and hospitals still been very busy, and spikes and COVID and everything, that's probably more of a long-term thing. But we've got the brands, we've got the designers. Some of our designers have actually worked on some kind of wellness rooms at the Nightingale hospitals. So we've got people who've got experience in that as well. So it seems, and if it's an area, let's say, where we haven't got enough designers to meet all the nominations, we could do a hospital room, and then you're basically providing for a lot of workers at one point. And again, that wasn't part of my initial idea, but what I've realised from talking to the NHS is that these rooms in the hospitals are equally probably as important as their havens at home, because obviously between shifts, they can't go home, or they just the doctor Amina I spoke the other day, she says they just look at a wall having their lunch.
But it's just the place where they need to go just to have that tiny bit of downtime, a cup of coffee, have their lunch, and they don't have the budget to do that.
No.
Where's that budget going to come from? So to be able to do that and go in is just amazing. And you could probably get maybe get designers to band together and be a team. So if everyone gives their time cap, you could multiply that by 4 or whatever.
And completely, and companies such as Neptune, who because of the time cap, we're not going to be able to do whole remodelings of people's kitchens, but actually we could do with Neptune, and I've chatted to them, we could do a nice kitchen station, tea coffee station in a staff room using the cabinetry, which we wouldn't be able to do in a home because we don't have enough time, but we would be able to do in a hospital. So with some brands, they're kind of come into their element as well, more if they're more kind of
yeah, because that's where they feel that they can do something. Absolutely. So I'm looking at my list of questions here because we've been chatting and I've sort of forgotten where I am. But the next thing I was going to ask you, so, you know, not only, you know, we've talked about the, you know, incredible projects that you've designed and, you know, setting up charities, you know, overnight here, there and everywhere, but you're also launching, which I saw on Instagram the other day, you're launching, you know, a range of coastal homeware. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I have ideas.
But you're obviously, I have an idea and I must do it. It's not like I have an idea.
Oh. But it's something, do you know what? It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. It's been products. And because I've been so busy working on site and if I'm not on site, I'm in the car doing the school run basically. Mm-hmm. I've sort of not really kind of done anything about it. And I like making things, you know. I like the idea of
the craft side of you.
Not so much of the craft stuff, but I just like the idea of producing something solid, you know, because I think that, you know, with rooms, you do these lovely rooms in interior design and then you walk away and you kind of just let go of it. And it's sort of to be able to kind of make something that, you know, you can sell and people can keep, and it's not just for that one person, that other people can
it's got a permanence to it.
It's got, it's kind of, so I think it's just, you know, from playing shop as well. You know, also from my acting days of working in so many shops.
Oh, I'm going to, this is my other role of proprietor.
Yeah, I've worked in a lot of shops. And so I guess being down here by the sea, I kind of just went, actually, this is kind of who I am fundamentally. And I suppose, you know, before I design and make all my own headboards. I personally don't know, but I have I design all the headboards. But
I know. Well, I saw that the other day because I posted one of your headboards in a little post I did about headboards, and I saw that, and you said that you get a lot of headboards made. So yes, go on.
Yeah, no. So every headboard has all been designed and made by me, but they're not the easiest thing to post.
Yeah.
Quite a lengthy process. So I kind of scrapped the headboard idea for a bit, although I just like the process of designing and making something. So living by the sea, that's kind of very much who I am, and it's stuff that can be easily accessible. You can get the kind of beach house look and all the things that I get made anyway. I'm going to basically sell them. Mm-hmm. So there'll be lovely beach bags, there'll be lovely cushion covers, you know, tableware, napkins, aprons, you know, and I think I'll probably, if I find some nice little antique finds, I'm really keen to support local businesses as well. And and where I am, there's some incredible artisans and artists and makers. Yeah. And so it's all about, you know, I don't know how much we'll make, how quickly. I mean, I've got the first sort of batch happening, but it's all about, you know, being British made, being locally made, being sustainable. You know, like I was saying, lots of stuff from reclaimed fabrics, reclaimed materials, but having that kind of element of, like you say, people wanting to be by the sea, even if they're not by the sea.
Yeah.
And less of it. It's funny, people always think coastal sort of like shells stuck around in
mirror. Well, there's that sort of kind of typical thing of shells and that sort of hairy rope
driftwood sign saying
yeah.
And I'm kind of always like, you know, I live by the sea all year round, and it's not that at all. It's actually there's a lot of different, with Elmy as well, and when I did this, the colours are incredible, and it's not just blue and white gingham. There's amazing pinks in the skies. You know, when the window behind me, we have no curtains here because it's just different colours throughout the day. And you can see the storm coming in, and so they're going to be different. The ranges will be basically based on coastal colours rather than being kind of a typical sea.
Or that sort of Nantucket style, that sort of New
England very much style. Nantucket, yes. Yeah. Very much kind of Hamptons Nantucket.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, you can have any, you know, don't have to live by the sea to have, you know, the kind of slightly more
because it's just a kind of it's kind of a relaxed summer vibe kind of thing. Yeah. You know, and I wondered, because I was just wondering, you know, where this range came about. Like, I just thought when you were doing your beach house, was it a case of you couldn't, you know, when you sometimes you know, as a designer, you know exactly what you want, you know, but you can't find it. You know, you can't or else it's horrendously expensive. I really don't want it to be expensive, and it's not going to be expensive, and
it's very much the case of every blind there, every cushion, you know, it's from fabric I found. It's kind of gone, I'd really like a linen blind there, but with a really nice stripe. Could I find that? No. So I had these linen blinds, and then I've got this very lovely ribbon that I've trimmed the blinds with, and it's totally inexpensive. And like with the denim is dressmaking denim, and actually a lot of the range is going to have denim in it. And it's not an expensive fabric, but it's incredibly effective. And likewise, if you've got kids, or, you know, if you have a denim curtain and they go and put, you know, jam fingers down the side of it, you shove it in the washing machine.
And actually it looks better. It's the thing about the older it gets, it looks better. Yeah. So was that the case where you were kind of looking for stuff for your beach house and you couldn't find it, so you kind of improvised?
Totally. And it is when you sort of Google, you know, it's funny, when I'm looking for inspiration for the coastal stuff, I often don't type in beach house, I type in lake house, because beach houses are very much blue and white, all sort of pale, like I say, with sort of seashells and blue gingham. And that's, you know, where our beach house is very much, it's more of a cabin because it's cozy. It's got a wood burner. It's in the winter, and there's quite a lot of dark greys in there, colours that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a beach house look. But actually, the skies here are often very grey and stormy. And lots of sheepskins and texture is really important, I think. And I think sometimes with beach houses, that kind of look, it's a bit sort of uncomfortable because everything's just the same kind of texture. And actually, you can play around with texture a lot. So it was very much a case of basically everything to save money. And I couldn't find the look that I wanted. I got it made. So that's kind of where the range has come from.
Okay. So, and how can people buy it? Are you going to be selling it online, or are you going to have a shop?
Yeah, so, no, I'm not going to have a shop.
Not yet. Listen, I wouldn't put it past you.
I think they
really wouldn't.
I would quite like one just to go and sit in my own. But I would have to
lock the door. Closed. Tidying up.
Just like fiddle with my nice pretty things and not have to talk to anybody. But no, it's going to be online. So I think I'm going to do a Shopify account. And it'll be linked to my website and my Instagram. And I've just ordered the labels, which is very exciting. So
do you have a name for the shop or the range?
It's going to be FRP Coastal.
Oh, nice!
very, very imaginative.
Yeah, but you know, it'll be you know, but it sort of does what it says on the tin, really.
Yeah. Yes. And I do get called FRP a lot.
Yeah, because it's too long to say. It's too long to say your full name.
No, and everybody, you know, lots of people say, "How do you say it?" It's like, you know what, it's just and also when you're doing, jobs and the contractors or the architects and sort of thing, like they obviously never write my full name. So in every minutes of a meeting, it's always this FRP.
Yeah.
People are probably wondering what it means, but it means it's just my name.
Brilliant. Now listen, so, we've talked about all of this, and you have mentioned that you have 4 boys. So, so you've got 4 boys as well as doing all of this. So how on earth do you do it all?
I think, my youngest is 4 and my eldest is 14. And I don't know is the answer, but we do. And it's, I was a single mum I now live with my partner, but I was a single mum for a long time, which was one of the main impetuses for working, because I had to work. And I was very lucky that my parents did my childcare while I was, on site and things. And we've just found a rhythm, the boys and I. They're all very different. They're quite eclectic, and they're all they're quite self-sufficient. And it was funny in lockdown, this homeschooling was not easy. I
was going to ask you about that. Not just having 4 boys. I have 2 boys, and that's kind of enough to be going on with. Thank you very much. Yeah. But I was lucky in that my boys are a little bit older. My youngest has just turned 13, so they could just get on with the schoolwork themselves. So I was going to ask you about what was that like about having from 4 up to 14 at home and homeschooling.
Well, the 14-year-old, much like yours, I imagine, his school was very good, and they had a teacher on the other side of the computer, basically, and he's in the middle of his GCSEs, so he was sort of self-contained. But with the other 3, it was carnage, because I've got a 12, a 10, and a 4-year-old, and it's a long time since I've done any of that schoolwork myself. So we did it. I don't think we did it very well, but we did
But
it.
you
But
did
it was
it
kind of,
in the middle of, you know, setting
yeah,
up.
but we didn't do all of it. So we
Pardon?
would do things like, we did cooking. They learned a lot about the NHS. You know, they've never seen me work before. And I think, you know, they've always been at school, or they've been with my mum and dad. They've never actually seen me work. So they'd see me doing Zooms like this, and they see me. And I think, and I just talked to them a lot about what we were doing and what I was doing. So they kind of learned about charity. They kind of learned about running a business. They kind of learned about cooking. We did a lot of drawing rainbows, and it became a very creative thing. And I think a lot of mums, particularly, and parents and dads, well, but they just put so much pressure on themselves to get an, you know, I'm not, you know, I've been a school governor, but I'm not you know, I'm not going to say don't teach your kids, but it's kind of like you had to sort of balance what was mentally good for you all, and take, you know. And I sort of went, well, during the war, you know, kids became evacuees. They were sent away to the country, didn't learn anything for months, and even other than how to milk a cow or to bake. And that generation did okay.
You're absolutely right. And it was, and I, you know, it's, you know, and also the thing is, take that pressure off yourself, because we're all in the same boat globally. You know, the whole world was going through this. So, you know, there probably will be a knock-on effect later on, but I think there will be benefits. You know, like mine learned to cook, you know, in that lockdown period. You know, they were quite my younger one was quite resourceful. He was sort of making things and, you know, sort of doing sort of stuff in the garden. And so, you know, and they were kind of learning skills, you know, useful skills.
What they would do, what mine were doing a lot was they kind of learned, you know, they started selling things on eBay, and we didn't post it like until you know, after we could go to the post office and things. But they kind of learned trade a bit. They just it was kind of being resourceful. We just learned different skills. We watched a lot of movies. We watched important movies, you know, historical movies, which we probably wouldn't have normally watched because we normally watch the rubbish ones or whatever. We had so much time. And it's funny, I went to the beach the other day in Hastings, and I always go to the beach with the kids, and it's often me, the boys, or me and one boy. And I looked around the beach, and there was so many full families on the beach, whereas normally I don't think that before, you know, people wouldn't go to the beach all together. But it was like, and it was a few weeks ago, so lockdown is just beginning to kind of ease. And I thought, this is so interesting, because very rarely do you see the mums, the dads, and all the kids. You know, there's always, you know, sort of odd, you know, segments of families. And I thought it's really brought together people spending time together. And I think, you know, so I don't know how we do it, but we do it. And they just have to get, you know, they accept that I'm on the phone quite a lot and do my emails. But then we just, you know, then I say, right, from, you know, 4 o'clock onwards, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then, you know, we'll do some cookies.
Academically,
I don't know. We'll see you next.
Well, but, you know, academically, you know, and they'll, you know, they will be okay, you know. And it was quite interesting you say that about work, you know, seeing you working, because my 13-year-old, you know, sort of halfway through, said, God, you work really hard, because I'm up here all the time, every day, you know, getting up doing it, because I work from home, like that. They'd never seen me, and I was like, God, yeah, you actually do quite a lot of work. And I'm see you later.
Yeah, exactly. I think the kids just often, you know, they think they drive you to school, and then they don't really think about what you're doing, and then you pick them up or whatever, or they come. And I think and that, you know, I'm a bit of a feminist, but I think it's probably really raised the respect, you know, with our children towards their mothers, because they really, you know, we're working and cleaning and cooking, and, you know, my partner's a psychotherapist, so he's worked throughout. I mean, you know, he's been on the phone looking after people, you know, throughout, and so they were sort of seeing, and they were like, "Did you do this all the time?" I'm like,
"Yeah, I know."
I'd be in the car, and I'd be on site. So actually, this is actually a little bit easier, because I'm here. I'm not having to travel.
And I'm not having to,
but
you know, be held to the school timetable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and I worked with the charity when it first took off. I was, you know, I'd be doing all their stuff, and then I'd be doing all the emails, and, you know, people must think it was really bizarre, because they were getting emails and messages on Instagram about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But you know, I think lots of people were very similar. I'd go on at 2 o'clock, and there'd be loads of people on Instagram.
It's quiet, everyone's asleep. I can finally get some stuff done.
But I think it's changed. I'd be interested to see in interiors how it's changed, because I know for sure that I don't actually need to go to site as much as I used to.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
I've thought about this, and I thought, well, actually, we can do video, you know. I've driven 3 hours to get to a site to have a 10-minute meeting in the rain, which wasn't really worth doing. We could have just looked at, plans in front of us on a Zoom and then come back again. And
I know.
I think not just in interior, I think in lots of industries, people have realised they don't have to travel as much.
Yeah, I know, and it's really interesting, and I think it'll be interesting as well to see how that changes in terms of, because as you say, lots of people I think are really reconsidering where they live in terms of work. I don't need to live in the city. I can live further out because I don't have to commute every day, and I can stay here. I've worked from home. I've got much better, quality of life. So I don't necessarily have to go back into the office 5 days a week. So it would be really interesting to see how, that influences, interior design as well, kind of outside of London.
Yeah, no, completely. I think in every industry, everybody who's had to continue to work through but has done it from home has gone, I don't necessarily have to live on the tube line so much now.
I don't have to commute for 2 hours.
I kind of knew that. Yeah, I kind of knew that living down here already, but now I've realised that actually I don't need to go to those meetings for like half an hour in London when I pay the most expensive train fare and then come back. Exactly. I can now do it on the phone, and it's and I think and again it puts the emphasis back on people's homes, and they're going to spend more time in their homes and spend more time on their home offices and their home environments because they can work from there as well as someone said to me, I can't remember, it was Kate Watson-Smythe from Mad About the House. She said the other day, it's the first time for many people who've actually been in their home during the day, other than weekends. A lot of people are only in their homes at night times.
I know.
I was like, oh my God, I'd never even thought of that.
I know, it's interesting. But listen, we're coming to the end. But I've just got a couple of more things that I want to ask you. So I've sort of asked everybody this so far, and I think as long as we're sort of in this situation, or we're just coming out of lockdown, it's quite interesting to hear what people say. So what did you find the hardest during lockdown, and what did you enjoy the most?
I think the homeschooling was the hardest. I think, and I think once I sort of made peace with it, that we weren't going to achieve it all, and that my kids' mental health and my mental health was the priority, and that we wouldn't completely stress ourselves out, and that I suppose I'm quite bohemian anyway, so I probably took that to another level of like, we're just going to do it our way. And fingers crossed it's all going to be okay in the long term. I think that was the most difficult thing, to see your kids really stress. And I think one of the things is, it's difficult learning anyway, but if to then expect your children to learn in an environment that they're also relaxing in, and to be able to switch between the two as and when you say, is not, kids' brains, so they need to be in a learning environment like a school for them to go, right, this is when I'm at school, this is when I absorb, this is when I'm at home, I watch telly. If you're trying to do that in the same room, they don't, why would they? It's really complicated. I know. So that was the hardest, and the best thing I think was seeing how much kindness and generosity there is out there. For the charity, it's been massively enlightening, and kind of gives you, a bit of hope and faith in the human race, and having time with my children, which I think it has affected the way I will continue to work going forward. I'm not going to be in the car for 6 hours a day, missing that precious time.
It's so very interesting, because I do think, have all been at home, and it's been a little bit stressful at times for everybody. You've had your flashpoints, but I kind of see it as particularly my children are 16 and 13, so I'll blink and they'll be gone. So I've been given a gift to just spend this much time with them, at home, and just for us to be together. So, we will probably look back on this, and really, really appreciate it, I think.
And I think, yes, and to sort of go back to the charity and the NHS, we have been really lucky to have that time, and many haven't had that time. And so, it is definitely a highlight, because I can appreciate, it must have been, awful for the kids and the workers, all key workers, to not be able to be together during that time. So I think it changes people's perspective. I think it's changes the way we work. I think it's going to change the way we live, and it would change our homes in every sense. But hopefully, all for the best and the positive.
Yeah. I mean, we this is going to be around for a while now, so I think we
Completely.
really have to adapt, and we all have to work together, I think, to get through this. But listen, I'm on to my final question. I won't keep you any longer because I know it's so hot today, and you probably are dying to get back out into the sunshine and just have a relax. Pardon?
Lesson. I'm having my first paddleboard lesson.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. Well, I definitely
tomorrow. I know. No, not today. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Well, my last question was, I just want to know, what would be your dream project?
What would be my dream project? A really lovely, beautiful house, which don't really exist in this country, but they are a few. Big old house by the sea. Because there are either beach houses by the sea or big old houses in the countryside. But I think I don't know if that would be my dream. But I think yes, that's probably my dream project. But I think it's something that's just kind of, I like adding character, something that needs character added, and something that already has character that you can enhance and has an interesting story.
I was just going to say that. Would it be something with a really interesting story?
I don't know what Poirot it is, but there was one Poirot, and there's this incredible house which they use as a location on a cliff, and I'm going to have to go back and look at them all. And something like that, where that house can tell so many tales.
Yeah.
And it's just delving into that and and it doesn't matter if it's not all still there, because you can put it all back in and stuff like that. But, to some kind of incredible house that has so much history, but also sort of a blank canvas at the same time by the sea.
Yeah. And unlimited budget.
An unlimited budget. But actually, I quite like budgets, because then I can be really inventive.
Yeah. It kind of gets the creative thing going. Well, listen. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I wish you, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you every success with your practice, with your projects. I look forward to seeing more, and I wish you every success with Design Havens for Heroes. Thank you for having that brainwave, and for all of us to be able to get involved. But listen, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining, and I mean, so many people join. It's wonderful, so thank you, Nicola. It's lovely to have you on board.